Friday, a stock analyst. I monitor and report on any anomalous traffic attacking our customers. I am, for that sake, I'm on blue team on the daily life. On the secondary life, I also am a hobbyist on one wheels. I like to go outside, go on rides, but also I like to kind of mix in a little bit of digital, like hijinks, and that's where we have Warwheeling. Similar to kind of Pokemon Go and Ingress, you're basically gamifying what you're doing outside and how you're doing it. So let me just go through here. Yeah. So yeah, one wheels. If you're not too sure, it's like the little, it's like an Omni balancing, electric skateboard. Very popular. It's been out for 10 years as the beginning of this year, and it's only gotten more popular since. And with the growing rates of your like PEVs, the personal electric vehicles, and a lot of like younger millennials or even older millennials living in cities and wanting to have a car-free life and just being able to move on their own, you're seeing a lot, more and more devices every day. Like as of 2 years ago, I had no idea what electric unicycle was until I was just driving and seeing this one guy with a giant big wheel on main roads just ripping at 40 miles per hour, just geared up like he's a gladiator. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
They're fast, man.
They go incredibly fast. You like just starting point. The small ones that you can balance on, they're like really like your ankle breakers, but they can go up to 20 miles per hour. I wouldn't go up to 20 miles on the smaller ones, but the big guys that are like basically 80 pounds of just batteries, oh man. You have your hardware hackers on your computers, and then you have the guys that don't think of themselves as hackers, but they will do anything to unlock these boards. They can make them go quicker. You have restrictions built in from Future Motion, who is the patent holder of this. Exactly, but the argument that they're saying is like, oh, if you crack into our board and you hurt yourself, you're gonna sue us. But that's like the scapegoat that they have every time. But when you want to build your own device, that's where you have the open source market of Vesk. And of course, like the topic of Vesking a one wheel and Warwheeling are two different subjects, but they really are in that same culture of wanting to know what's going on in that board so you can prevent any sort of like errors. And funny enough, I have a personal story related to an error my board went through at the end of the slide. But yeah, it's a really fun topic because now Future Motion has caught wind of a float wheel, which is another company operating out of China, making boards that are about $1,000, $1,200 altogether as a kit that outperforms their top of the line wheels. And these are wheels that came out this year called a GTS, and they're going around saying, oh, look at our new wheel with the rally rails. But everybody in that one wheel like community, similar to this hacker community today, you have your different chapters from across the country that are doing research in their own little like niches that they like, and others just kind of build on top of that. But as you can see here, I'm ready with my nephew, first time at DEF CON, and a lot of our friends here in Florida, South Florida. And of course, I have to give a shout out to our South Florida One Wheel group, which is, I'm from down in Palm Beach, but when I got my first one wheel and I was just like getting my first 100 miles, I ran into these guys and it really changed the game for both board driving and one wheeling, unintentionally. Let's start off with the basics. What is war driving? Put it very simple. You're running around with cell phones or laptops, collecting Wi-Fi access points, anything in the radio spectrum from your Bluetooth, your cellular, your Wi-Fi, and you're just making a ledger. You're just writing it down where you've seen it and the last time you've seen it, and we all kind of upload to the same platform called Wiggle. Wiggle has been operating for the past 20 years, and their mission is just kind of like, hey, we want to see what's out there, we want to improve on security, and that's all through awareness. When you are operating a Wi-Fi device, default like settings, back 20 years ago, anybody was able to just walk around and just jump on the network. Or even if you had a password set, that protocol could have been web and could have been cracked as easily as, just spotting it, on the road. Wiggle gamified this collection process by 100 because not only are you competing against yourself and other players, you can form your own groups, and from it, it's just really seeing the line go up and seeing your group's rankings kind of go up and down on that tier chart. And once you start getting a ranking, it's like, all right, how do we get better next time? How do we improve on our route so when we go drive for a few hours, you're actually getting the most out of it versus, oh, I'm really just running around with like a little, like, I don't know, jitterbug phone and it's collecting 2 things every half a mile. Of course, notice to everybody, don't crack anything that you do not own. We don't run around here cracking passwords, getting the people's network, stealing credit cards. That's really not the name of the game. A lot of YouTubers and news likes to kind of sensationalize like that aspect of war driving. Are you able to collect passwords in the air and crack them on your own time? Yes. Are we doing this and advocating for that? No, that's really like a not cool kind of thing to do. So, what can you war drive with? So let's find that spectrum of what is the entry level versus where you get into that hobbyist enthusiast range. The slide was provided during the DEF CON 30 Worldwide War Drive, but from the very start, you have El Contaro, just honest, he's a war walker. He walks, he jogs, running a bunch of cell phones on him, like Bandito style, and he's still in like the top rankings because it depends on the area of density. It depends on how frequently you're doing it. He's an ultra bike runner, so he's not running out of steam at any time, and as long as his batteries are charged, you're good. And then you start getting to more complex, like here we have Noobs with just like his MacBook with the little GPS plugged in, and that's really all you need, and it works. And that's what I really used for the first year while I was out in the wild. Then you get your creative Wi-Fi Wiggle water bottle where they customize their own PCB, so the USB plugs could be oriented upwards, just so you can put in the network card adapters upwards. Here, I don't think the antennas are plugged in, but there would be holes in the outside that would just shoot it, unless it's internal antennas. And then you really get to the bigger ones and the more community-worthy legends, where we have Dark Matter and the giant Wi-Fi cactus, just an entire rig of 60 pounds of just straight, Wi-Fi network cards. And then Busy Signal with his trunk build, where that itself is literally a PC case filled with network cards, with power adapters, just all juice to the gills, and it's amazing. It's hard to see from the projector, but you'll see a couple of Sk8r antennas mounted on top of the car with a magnet. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if you're walking around, or you're driving around, and you have this on the top? Will someone pull you over? Yeah, but they're not going to bother you, or there's other things happening that, you don't draw attention. So as long as you're not doing anything crazy, you're kind of left alone. When's the last time you saw a car or a truck on the highway packed with 7 couches, Tetris style, and, did you see a cop pull them over or talk to them? Maybe if the opportunity presented, but really, it's all easily explained. It's kind of like, hey, I'm doing Wi-Fi analytic research. It's just a thing that nerds kind of do. Again, it's really no different than a Pokemon Go or Ingress alternate reality game. You're just going somewhere, you're collecting the little tokens, and keep it moving. Why are we here? Warwheeling. Breaking it down again. You are war driving on a one wheel, on any wheel. You can go on a EUC. You can war wheel on a bike. That's technically called war cycling, but what is old is new again. And warwheeling, I came at this at the same time, and living in downtown West Palm made this an adventure, because it would tell me all right, you see these areas already covered, let's explore outside, and then you'll find these little restaurants or nooks in the city that you wouldn't have even expected. And that's really the thing for on a one wheel. Even if you had a scooter to explore around or EUC, it's still a fun thing that you're able to just go out. And a lot of us in the tech industry already have, times where we're just on a computer for multiple hours a day, and we need to find an excuse to go outside. I advocate finding any creative outlet to just go outside for a couple minutes or half hour, whether it's on a bicycle with a war driving phone, whether you're playing Pokemon Go on a scooter, it's just going out there. It's really great. So if we're put on a scale, that's where we kind of land, smack dab in the middle, because what we may not receive here in density collection, we are very dexterous in navigating like areas that cars typically wouldn't be able to go through, and that's where I kind of figured out after going on a couple of group rides, it's its own different world. But why? Again, all the cool things you get to see. I've never been to this part of Miami where it's just the Ferris wheel, and I realized, oh my God, there's so many events happening. And Miami itself, sure, you'll have drivers and some issues, like if you try to go through like busy areas, but for the most part, whenever you're riding at night or early in the morning, all these bridges are open. Everything is aesthetic, and it's absolutely stunning and beautiful what you can just see going out. Like all on the left side is just a random platform for Miami. Here, I'm out in, I think, Virginia Keys in South Miami. This here is in Fort Lauderdale, and it's just like, damn, it's really nice going outside. But also, I'm running around with a couple of phones and like learning that, all right, there is a cap to running with multiple phones, and so we have to get better. And as what you may have seen, what you saw in the last photo, that's where, of course, you would use the laptop with the GPS, but then you have your own personal war driver, and that is, that's where you got your your 2 ESPs that you program all on a PCB, and all of this is open source from wardriver.uk. Anything that you want to learn about war driving or build your own kit, there's options online to purchase like an already made set, but for the real like hands-on experience to see like, all right, I made this, I can troubleshoot if something goes on, go online, there's free Gerber files from wardriver.uk, and you can build your own kit from there. So from here, it's just more shots from the group that I learned. These guys have very much the attitude I would imagine skaters would have in the 90s. Because you have a mix of like young folks in like their mid-20s, but then you have like your dads and uncles that know how to ride the one wheel, like to go out and have like some fun on a Tuesday, but they can rip it on the trails too. And it's just its own huge community, especially through the size of the events that happen across the country. A lot of these guys, it's a small world, they know each other. From the graphs, it's showing kind of like the path of what I see from a one wheel. And being the first time I ever did this loop all around the airport, there's areas that a normal car wouldn't be able to go through. But if you're a pedestrian or you're riding your bike, which a lot of like bicyclists like to take the airport route, we were able to go in areas I didn't know you could. And we were just right by that runway seeing just airplanes come through. And from it, the overall net new, it's like 16,000 just new discovered, never seen on the website. And again, another route where it was just like a 2-hour ride straight down from Aventura down to, to Brickell, 30K. And that's running just with a phone and a single Wi-Fi kit. Now imagine if I had a bigger backpack with a bunch more devices connected. That would have been, a huge thing. So War Drive, again, it's just showing the competitive nature in these teams. At the time, it was all kind of like solos, where combined, the most that they saw was less than 10,000 during that stretch. Last year, you had well over a couple hundred users for the War Drive. And even though I didn't place in their top scoring, if we were to look at just the amount of Wi-Fi collected, I was in like that top 5 range for the first time just playing the game. But they have their own different rules where, all right, we select a square and we look through in a certain area. We're trying to find an already known point, but now we know the game is going to be similar for this year. I have some of the resources that are part of what I used to learn about war driving, including a old DEF CON talk by Chris Hurley in explaining the World War Drive. And from here, if you want to stay in the loop, here's my handles, active on Instagram. But earlier I did mention I did get in an accident while on a one wheel last year. This was the day after B-Sides Orlando. So after I saw you, the day after, there's an Orlando crew, and I wanted to go meet up with them in Claremont. I'm like, all right, let's go. I run with my Sk8r, and we go through Sk8r, and we go through these areas. I've never been to Claremont. Claremont, I learned that same day, is the hilliest part of Florida. The Sk8r is not built for hills. And so one thing led to another. My board shuts off. I break my collarbone. Yeah, that was not fun. I have a good ending to the story, but does anybody want to see the x-rays?
Yeah.
All right. You're really sure?
Yes.
Absolutely. No going back. Yeah. That's not supposed to look like that. But they patched me up with 6 screws and a bar. And then that's me escaping the hospital right after. Right back to it. But within an hour after discharge, I was back in the board, a smile on my face, because I knew it wasn't like, it was my fault, but really, I needed to learn, get a better board, or make it better so it doesn't fail on me. That was back in October. Good news is, I went back in March because a nice lady that I crashed in front took me to the hospital and stayed with me in the emergency room. And as a way to say thank you after all of that, I went back with the group in March, and we said thank you. And yeah, that's not Warwheeling, but it's a feel-good ending. Thank you. All right. Any questions or any comments?
When you wrecked by yourself, was it just from the hills or
No. So on the
involvement or?
on the photo, it was all me. I was riding in a similar group like this. It's all the same people, maybe a few in and out, but we're just kind of going through the neighborhood, cruising to like the first location. This is within the first 5 minutes, and then that's where I saw the lady and her husband with a yard sale going on, and then the board was just running, and then it just stopped in power, and I fell forward. Yeah, it wasn't a collision or a car, it was just a board turned off at 18 miles per hour and tumble forward. Yeah. But I mean, I'm good now. I still go on the board every once in a while. I'm not letting that scare me away. But any other questions? All right.
What was your most prominent catch that you caught while road driving? Like the most amount of what was it exactly?
So one of the more recent like collections in a run had to been the final couple hours of the last year's war driving competition, because at the very end it all ends at the same time, and it was a weekend for me. So from like midnight till 6 a.m. I was just running through downtown, and from that night maybe 30,000-40,000, and that was just with a really old Android phone, a laptop, and a Wi-Fi. So it wasn't efficient, but it was enough to where I saw like I squeezed every blood from that stone I could have, and yeah, it was definitely fun from there. All right. If there's any questions, definitely meet me in the back. I have some swag to give out too for those that stayed, because it wouldn't be a talk without some swag.